City of Battle Creek and our Battle Creek City Commission workshop for January 16th, 2024. We're going to start our meeting by having public comments limited to 3 minutes per individual. And if we have time, we'll also have public comment at the end of the meeting. Are there any public comments right now? I'm not seeing any, so I'm going to take the chance to turn it over to our city manager and take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that, Mayor and Commissioners. I just get the easy part. I get to introduce. Marcy Gillette is our Community Services Director, but she is not the main point of contact for tonight's presentation. We're really excited to introduce Helen Guzzo to you. She's our new Community Development Manager. We know it was sad to see Chris Lucier go, but we love what Helen's brought with kind of new, fresh eyes, looking at things differently, but also continuing to support our communities in a lot of different ways because we know the needs out there. So this is usually what we call kind of our annual community development update, but we know we have some commissioners who haven't gone through this yet. So I'm sure she'll be able to answer any questions that you may have during her presentation. So Helen, welcome.
Thank you. I started with the city in September 5th, and I had worked for the city in 2014 to 17 as a community development specialist, and I worked for Chris Lucier, and we're really excited that he got a promotion to work for the state at the Michigan State Housing Development Authority. I had worked for HUD in the early 90s, and I ran the Michigan Coalition Against Homelessness for 2 years. And I've been a private consultant, and then the HUD hired a stay-at-home mom, the city hired a stay-at-home mom who had great experience and gave me the experience to then apply to the county to be a manager. So I managed Calhoun County Senior Services for the last 6 years, administering your tax dollars, about $4 million worth of tax dollars for senior millage. So I bring all that advocacy for older adults and that knowledge with me into my current job, and I'm really glad to be here. I'm going to start out with my terrific staff. We have 8 members of our staff. We're relocated a couple years ago to downstairs. So Michelle Salazar is here. She's one of our superstar staff. She is in the Kellogg Foundation's Community Leadership Network. So she's part of 80 cohort young adults across the country that are getting some extra training in leadership, and we're real proud of her. So we have a great staff. We have Chris Douglas and Michael Earl and Todd Nowicki, who are our construction specialists. They specialize in construction. And then Sarah Espinoza is our brand new intake specialist that we're excited. We have 3 Spanish-speaking staff who do language interpretation for other departments. So I'm going to talk about our division. We apply for and administer state and federal grants. I put our brochure at each of your spots. The minor home repair program and our lead remediation program are our 2 big programs, and we advertise to the public through that bilingual brochure that's at your spot. We have a 5-year community plan called the Consolidated Plan, and that is how we apply for HUD funding. So it's a community-wide needs assessment that we have to do every 5 years. We're at the end. 2024 is the end of our consolidated plan. So you are going to be invited to be part of sessions. We're right now developing what that's going to look like. And then every year we do an annual action plan. And so I'm here now because in 2 or 3 weeks you're going to be asked to vote on a budget. And this is the time for you to understand it. So this is why I'm here, is because the annual action plan is going to be up. And then we have different public hearings through the year, and I'm going to explain those. So community development. These are our sources of funds. We use the Community Development Block Grant Program. It's been about $1.2 million from the federal government every year. And then the Home Investment Partnership Program is about $320,000. We were part of a lead task force in 2015, 16, 17 that was reaction. Jim Rutherford, the public health director, and Chris Lucier got together and were like, let's get ready to apply for the lead remediation funds that are going to start coming from the state and the federal government in reaction to Flint, Michigan. And so we were ready, and we have both a state grant through CHIP, the Childhood Health Immunization Program, and the HUD lead to do lead remediation. So, and then we have these, to respond to coronavirus, we got $1 million in CDBG CV dollars, and then in the home ARP dollars. And then we're going to resume the Battle Creek Public Schools Housing Teacher Incentive. Laura Adi's running it now, and in July, our office is going to take over administration of that grant funding. So our planning cycle is right now we're doing the community needs assessment. We'll have a public hearing in February. January through May, we create our annual action plan, the budget we're going to be talking about. And then we have a public hearing of that in April. You'll approve it in May. And in July, we start our year. So our year follows the city's fiscal year. We don't follow the federal government fiscal year, although our HUD-led and our state grants do fund or follow the October 1st to September 30th federal year. And then the CAPER, you hear about the CAPER, it's our evaluation in August. So consolidated plan, this is a picture of one of our sessions at the Cool Family Center for the consolidated plan that was, that's been governing us 2020 to 2024. It's due to HUD May of 2025. You'll have to approve it. So we're in the final year. And in 2019, we did a community-wide survey with over 1,000 respondents with lots of great respondents from Burmese folks and from Spanish speaking because we've done so much outreach. So I'm hoping that we can dovetail with some other community initiatives to kind of build on other planning, other initiatives that are going on. I know that the city's master plan is going to take some revisions, and maybe we can dovetail consolidated plan, master plan together, just to be more impactful on the community. So this is our budget, the 2024. This is the 5-year budget for Community Development Block Grant, and these are the programs that we have funded. So the first one is the early childhood development that's been delayed. We've made a $490,000 commitment to that. I show the administration funds, code enforcement, the administration of our minor home repair program, the minor home repair program, which has been one of our major uses of the Community Development Block Grant Program. And then we're proposing to bring on community action as a subrecipient to help us spend our dollars. When HUD did a timeliness test in May, we're supposed to have 1.5 million or less, and we had 2.7 million. So we're under a spend down plan with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development right now. They're going to come monitor us March 18th. So we've been we're fully staffed now. We're recovered from the coronavirus. For a while there, we had canceled programs, underspending, and we were focusing on the CDBG, CV, the coronavirus assistance. And so if you'll look at the actual for 2020, we got about 1.2 million, but we only spent 900,000. So we have some program funds that haven't been spent, but we're working real hard to spend them. So in the green is the proposal for the 1.2 million that we will be receiving in 2024. The Home Investment Partnership Program, it's not under scrutiny right now because HUD gives us 8 years to spend those dollars. But we have about 1.3 million of home dollars in reserves, and we should only have 300 to 306 to 600,000. So this is the plan of how we're going to spend those. And in 2024, we're going to get about 320,000. We have to spend it with a CHODO, a Community Housing Development Organization, and that has traditionally either been neighborhoods or Habitat. Neighborhoods board, it doesn't meet the guidelines for a CHODO. Habitat for Humanity has. So we're about ready to certify Habitat for Humanity as a CHODO, a Community Housing Development Organization. But we have about 200,000 plus another 48,000. So we got about 248,000 for Habitat to do new construction. Habitat has been responding to our vacancy problem, and they've only been rehabbing homes instead of building new for probably about 15 maybe 20 years. Mike King, their new executive director, has pivoted, and they're doing their first new build in Urbandale right now, the first one they've done in many, many years. And so they're pivoting to the housing crisis. We don't have enough housing for folks. It's unaffordable. Habitat is pivoting to building new houses. So instead of funding one or two, probably two rehabs with that $250,000, we're going to fund new builds. Maybe one in, Habitat's going to choose the sites. I think probably the Washington Heights area and maybe another one in Urbandale. I know that where they're doing the one, they subdivided it, so they own the lot next to it. So, and then tenant-based rental assistance for neighborhoods. We've been able to help homelessness. We should be about solutions. We're government, and we should be about solutions. And so the home program has been funding a tenant-based rental assistance to help homeless folks with rental assistance. The CDBG-CV program funds housing case management to pay for the staffing, and then the home program can pay for rental assistance. So that is an important piece that the city has been providing to our homeless response system. It's called the Continuum of Care. And then the down payment assistance builds off from our fair housing initiatives. We've got 200,000 programmed. We don't have a signed contract. I'm thinking that neighborhoods will be that source of down payment assistance, but maybe it'll be the land bank. So we'll have a competition for that later this year. We're developing the operating procedures right now for a down payment assistance program through the home program. So Community Development Block Grant, I just don't know how much you're familiar with it. It was created in 1974. So 2024 will be the 50th year that the city has had Community Development Block Grant funding. So way back in 2005, this was in the Shopper News, and I love this. It lists all of our city commissioners, but it just talks about, here it says celebrating 31 years of service to Battle Creek, and I plan on doing some insert like this in August to celebrate community development's 50th year. And I'm like, should we do some public art? I don't know. I've just been thinking about how do we celebrate the impact of community development in our community. So look for something like this. You'll probably get a preview before it goes in the paper. But with our caper, we're going to do something like that. So projects, Community Development Block Grant, there was slum clearance, there was urban renewal, there were all these programs that kind of fallen out of favor. Congress created one Community Development Block Grant programs that localities can use for many different things. So the national objectives are to benefit low and moderate income persons, either area benefit, limited clientele, which is like domestic violence, victims of human trafficking, people that can be assumed to be low income, maybe seniors actually are a limited clientele. Job creation, we've not used community development for economic development, but CDBG and other communities has been used for loan guarantees, for small business grants. So job creation is an eligible activity, and then housing. And we've developed a lot of CDBG to housing, mainly to our minor home repair program. And then elimination of slums and blights. We funded demolition in the past. We haven't in the last 5 years. And then urgent need. If a flood, something bad happened to Battle Creek, we could reprogram available community development block grant dollars to address that urgent need. And then a policy question is, do we want to use community development block grant for public services? So prior to 2012, in 2012 there was a kind of a financial crisis on the federal, state, and local level, a lot of cutbacks. The city decided to eliminate the staff and eliminate the public service grants. So if you're going to do public service grants, you have to be on the you have to have a local decision-making body. We called it the Community Development Advisory Committee. And 15% of CDBG can be used for public services. So it's about $180,000 a year. I'm proposing that in this consolidated plan that maybe we restart public service grants in the 2025 year. And we're funding a lot of assistance to Haven, to the Share Center, that we can't fund regularly through the CDBG program. During the coronavirus, the need for this community advisory group got waived. so we could fund public services. So we're funding legal services and eviction diversion program. We're funding VOCIS for housing case management outreach to Spanish-speaking folks, and we can't fund those through the regular CDBG program going forward. So it's just it's a proposal. It's something you guys are going to have to approve when you approve the consolidated plan. And there's always, like, if we fund this, then we can't fund that. So there's that piece to it also. So we've got some unspent dollars, and then we have some old dollars. So we have old CDBG dollars from the rental rehab program, $155,718, that I'm proposing that we reprogram. So we have a 6-year funding. You have to spend the dollars or you'll lose them, and I don't want to lose these dollars. Then we have a need to spend money, and the minor home repair program helps folks in need, has a great impact. There's a waiting list, and so I want to reprogram this dollars from 2018 that are unspent. And then there's some funds from programs that were either canceled or not fully utilized. We have this remaining of $170,000 that's not allocated in any of our actual action plans. So I want to put that into the minor home repair. And then Community Action has a wait list for their senior minor home repair program. And they can spend the money fairly quickly also to help folks. There's a wait list. So you're going to see a substantial amendment. We're going to do a public hearing in the first meeting in February, and then the second meeting you'll be voting on these. So here's where they came from. Here's the sources and the uses of this substantial amendment. And local decided on our priorities. So in 2015 to 2019, our consolidated plan priorities were encourage vibrant neighborhoods and support well-functioning housing market, create vibrancy downtown and along major corridors, increase resident and community engagement, and support efforts to expand unemployment and workforce development, including transportation for low-income people. I think that shows that we had an unemployment problem. Now, 5 years later, we're kind of at full employment, and there's just not been the emphasis on workforce development as there was in 2015 and 19. So the last 5 years, ensure housing is affordable, accessible, and safe, activate underutilized land, which is help all that vacant and land that's been around in our communities, so that activate the underutilized land, alleviate poverty, engage community through collaboration and empowerment, affirmatively further fair housing, and restore vitality to low-income neighborhoods. So now I'm going to switch and talk about our programs, all the programs that we fund. So Get the Lead Out, Calhoun County. These are all our partners. The Department of Health and Human Services funds through CHIP program the $1.5 million a year. It renovated 27 homes last year. The Department of Housing and Urban Development gave us a $3 million grant in 2021. You guys just approved an expansion of a year because we were slow to spend those dollars. So HUD's one of our major funders, and then the Calhoun County Community, or the Public Health, they do testing of children, and they do the education. So when somebody has been lead poisoned, the health department goes out and does the education. They have a lead educator, and we work in partnership with the health department. And Community Action is our partner in both the CHIP HUD-LED and the HUD-LED program. They do houses, it's a countywide program, and they do the houses outside of the city of Battle Creek. So what is lead poisoning? Most of our houses were built before 1978. Lead was in the paint before 1978. So you get a new home, you start sanding, and you create a lot of dust. And in that dust is lead. A little bit of lead can hurt a child's growth and development. So, and it happens to people of all ages, all income. The grandma could be having all her kids, and it can be created from friction surfaces, from doors and windows that stick and that create dust. So, and there's been such a reaction. Like now, every 2-year-old in the state of Michigan has to be tested for blood, have a blood test for lead to determine whether they've been lead poisoned, because you got to catch it early or it affects their growth and development for the rest of their lives. So right now, we're only, we were doing prevention of homes of kids that were under age 6, but now we're only doing homes that have had a child that's been lead poisoned. So, how did that get out of order? So last year we did 29 houses, 24 with chip, 5 with HUD lead. And rental properties are eligible. We do, and so we spent $1.9 million last year and helped 15 in the city of Battle Creek, and Community Action did 14 countywide. And then I just wanted to say that we're restarting that lead task force with the health department. And way back in 2019, we got money from the Battle Creek Community Foundation to do a public health education campaign about lead, and we're going to try to get some funds to do that too. What's holding back the implementation of both minor home repair and the lead program is the limitation on contractors. Finding contractors that are willing to get their staff lead certified, that are willing to work in a lead safe manner. We've got 7 or 8. We've lost 2, one to bankruptcy. We are limited by our contractor pool, and we're going to do some outreach and engagement with our current contractors, helping to bring more contractors into the pool that are willing to do lead abatement. So our minor home repair, this map here shows the 36, where the 36 projects that we did last year are located. Last year we did 1 home rehab that was in Washington Heights, that's the yellow. So it assists moderate and low income with health and safety repairs. So about half of the dollars are for roofs. You repair a roof, you save a house from becoming vacant. Someone moves out, they're low income, maybe they're older, they've lived in the home, maybe the house got passed down. They just don't have the assets, they don't have the resources to afford a new roof. It starts leaking. That's the start of the cycle of vacancy. So every roof we replace, we prevent that house from becoming vacant later. And then we do a lot of furnaces and water heaters. They're all health and safety repairs. We don't disturb lead surfaces. We're all about lead remediation, so we don't move bathrooms around, we don't create lead dust, we don't paint houses. A number of houses in Battle Creek need to be painted. They can't be painted with the minor home repair program because it creates too much of a lead risk. So we do exterior repairs and interior repairs. This shows you 80% of area median income. So it's ALICE, you know, United Way talks about the asset limited, income constrained employed. Low income wage workers would qualify for help with the minor home repair program. And we usually do about 50 a year. We're hoping to do about 125 a year. We've got 68 right now. We had a staff, we didn't have an intake person, so we stopped taking intakes for a while, but we have 40 applications in the wait list for minor home repair. And kind of the questions I get from commissioners often is about the minor home repair, because people are waiting or they don't have insurance, and there's those areas where the house is almost vacant, it's almost condemned, it's got things that are boarded up, but should we put a new roof on it? So there's some, you know, if you're in the vacant and abandoned process, if you don't have a certificate, actually we're not going to help you, but there's some really poor housing conditions out there. How much investment of public dollars should we put into it? Those are some difficult decisions that get made sometimes. So, and we switched about 1.5 years ago to an online system. We have intake staff that'll help folks that don't have a computer, don't have an email, that aren't computer literate. They can come in the office, we'll help them apply. But people have to apply from our website online. And when HUD monitored us, it'd be the first time we don't have a whole stack of files for every project that we assisted. All of the income documentation, everything's through Neighborly. So this is what you get when you go to our website to sign up for the minor home repair program. But you can send people into our office. We have staff that are Spanish speaking. We'll help folks if they can't do it online. So a project delayed is the Youth Village Learning Center. we've made a commitment of $490,000 of CDBG dollars, which doesn't help our timeliness because almost $500,000 has been tied up. Heavy metals were discovered in the soil. We're waiting for Eagle to do a response action plan. It could take another 6 months to a year for that. So city ARPA funds are also committed to this project. It's just one of those delayed projects. We do have a written agreement, but that it doesn't help us with our getting below 1.5 million. If $500,000 is tied up in a project, then that's not going to move forward for at least a year. So the rental rehab program is another one of our risks. This is a home. So the rental rehab program provides substantial rehab of mixed-use properties in and around downtown. So the idea is to create rental housing above storefronts. It's been successful twice. In 2018, 724 Capitol Avenue created a 1-unit of rental housing above. It was in the old Lakeview area. And then 70 East Michigan, we paid for two of 3 units to be renovated. So that's a success. We need more rental housing. And then we chose in 2000 to invest in 614 Capitol Avenue. And I'm not sure, we might have to end up foreclosing on this project. We've given them $124,000. This picture was taken in October, and they hadn't attached the fire suppression system to the water supply. All of this, it came to my attention that this was a problem, and we started working with them. So just before it froze and got cold, they did connect the water supply, and they filled that in so it's not going to freeze. That's a success. And I think Mayor Benke was actually the early warning alert. Something's not right at this property. There was squatters. It was a bad situation. The guy says, Matt Kuiper, he says he wants to make do, and he doesn't want us to foreclose on the property. I was hoping he'd just give it to us. We wouldn't have to do, because we have to create units of affordable housing to create the national objectives for the CDBG program. So we either pay back this money to HUD, or we create 3 units of affordable housing. We could foreclose on and do it ourselves, or he can do it. So right now we're working with the developer. So that, I was there 2 weeks ago, and this picture that I took in October is still the way it looks inside. It should be 3 units of affordable housing, and it is not. So this is just a risk. I'm working with the city attorney's office. I just want you to be aware that we might have to pay money back. We might have to foreclose, maybe. He did pay his back taxes. He did pay his back water bill. He did provide us as an additionally insured, but he hasn't started working on it yet. But he has done some of the things, and there's no squatters in there. And the building should be secure, which it wasn't before. So just be aware. And code enforcement. We provide, we're going to switch hands now. We provide $210,000 a year for code enforcement in our low-income housing, our low-income neighborhoods. So the darker areas in our 5 core neighborhood planning councils there are where our low and moderate income folks live, and that is the neighborhoods that we can spend CDBG money. And we fund code officers, a portion of every code officer that works in these areas. So, and this is a map that shows the housing enforcements. So the code enforcements were about 2,000 of these addresses, 2,262 enforcements, 651 were non-housing related. So inoperable vehicles, front yard parking, junk and trash accumulation. So citywide, there's about 760,000, and about a third of them were in our low-income housing neighborhoods. So we're working hard to partner with code compliance to build stronger, more stable communities. We also, Vanessa Hernandez and our staff, she's providing support to our neighborhood planning councils. We appreciate every time one of you guys go to a neighborhood planning council, because people love seeing you there. They love knowing that the city's listening and being, it's just a great thing for you guys to go there. So I appreciate every time you guys show up at a neighborhood planning council meeting. But it's been our city's engagement tool since 1979. Should it remain our primary engagement tool? It's kind of a question there. We We read all the minutes, we distribute the minutes to members, we post the minutes to the city's website, we manage membership nominations that you guys approve. Tonight you'll approve Beautiful Battle Creek Awards. We manage that process. The code compliance technicians, code inspection technicians process those awards, but we're supporting that. And then, as you know, NPC 9, Rural Southwest, and 10, the Westlake area has not renewed. We haven't found leadership to be able to restart the neighborhood planning councils. So, home ARP, a little bit over $1 million. These are 2-year contracts to the Battle Creek Shelter. That's on hold right now because their fiduciary has been changing, and the Battle Creek Community Foundation told us, wait, okay, you need our $40,000 to provide supportive services. So I haven't figured that one out yet. But I know that Gracious Homes, the Share Center, Neighborhoods Inc., and the Haven are very appreciative of our home ARP dollars. Those are public service-like grants that we're able to fund now. We won't be able to fund them in the future unless we approve public service grants. So, and then upholdings, which personally is I want to be about solutions, and we need permanent supportive housing for our chronically homeless folks. So I appreciate when you guys voted to approve city property going to upholdings and you approved the pilot in lieu of taxes. We've reserved $365,332 from the home ARP dollars and about $30,000 from the home, and that will be in a contract that you'll see soon. So about $1 million. This is money that's currently out in the community doing good things. So the drop-in self-help, it's a recovery coach who does outreach, who helps, he takes people to Summit Point to enroll them in services all the time. They used ARPA dollars to buy a van. And so on your agenda tonight is a contract amendment. We were going to fund assistance with IDs, which is one of the major things that the Share Center does, but they got funding from other sources. So they asked if they could reprogram the home ARP dollars to fund the insurance and maintenance and gas for that van. So that's one of the things you're approving tonight. So exciting there. And then the CDBG CV, that's $1 million that we got in 2020, and we spent it from 2020 to 2022. We've got about $7,000 left. NIBC's got about $7,000 in rental assistance. But we're getting ready to close this grant out. And it was a key tool for helping the shelters address overcrowding and social distancing during the pandemic. And it was coronavirus dollars that Congress gave communities to help basically with homelessness, which I was shocked when I got into this role how much money was going to help homelessness. And in the public, I didn't see that. I didn't see the city supporting though in that way. So I think it's an untold story that we need to tell. Yeah. And we have a duty to affirmatively further fair housing. So this map is the 1936 redlining map of Battle Creek. So Richard Rothstein wrote The Color of Law, talking about how the little known fact, I think, that African Americans couldn't get FHA loans. So, or VA loans, even black veterans who served in World War II, when they came back, they couldn't get veteran affairs to pay for them to move to the suburbs. So America moved from the cities to the suburbs right after World War II, but African Americans couldn't. And you think why are African Americans concentrated in inner cities? Well, they don't have housing opportunities. They didn't have housing opportunities to build wealth through subsidized home ownership like many white Americans have. And so The Color of Law, Richard Rothstein, I know it was a real eye-opening book that helped me understand why we need fair housing, why 1968 the Fair Housing Act passed. And then his daughter, in January of 2020, just before the pandemic, we had, on a really terrible night like tonight, we had about 200 people at Macedonia Church show up when Richard Rothstein came to speak. And then the Truth, Reconciliation, Racial Healing, Truth, Reconciliation, and Transformation there, along with the Battle Creek area Association of Realtors is going to bring Leah Rothstein back to talk about her new book in June. So that's something you'll be hearing more about. So So in 2019, Community Development funded testing of real estate agents. The Fair Housing Center of Southwest Michigan did the testing. And they found bias among our real estate agents. They found steering, they found that people of color were treated disparately. They weren't treated the same, weren't given the same opportunities, weren't steered to all of the choices of the housing market. And the realtors were kind of shocked by that. And so they created a committee. They developed this home ownership book, and they've been doing home ownership workshops among targeted at lower income, low and moderate income folks to help address that bias that was tested. So the Fair Housing Center of Southwest Michigan, their testing capacity has been reduced. I've been meeting regularly with the executive director. I've met with her twice to figure out what kind of testing should we do. So we're going to be doing some sort of housing market testing. I have to see what the capacity of the Fair Housing Center is to do that. But that would be a contract that you guys would approve sometime in this next 6 months to a year. And when I'm also meeting with the Battle Creek Community of Truth, Racial Healing and Transformation, they're collaborating to bring in 2 speakers about housing discrimination in the next year. So that's something we also want to be part of. And so we have $75,000 of CDBG funds available for some sort of either fair housing education or fair housing testing. I'm not clear what that's going to be. So in conclusion, I will happily answer any questions about community development, but we have our expert staff. We're going to do more than 125 minor home repair projects, 27 CHIP, 20 to 25 HUD-led abatements. We're going to continue to fund and partner with code compliance. We're going to continue to support neighborhood planning councils. We're going to implement fair housing assessment testing education. We're going to help lead the changes in the homeless response system. I'm a member of the Housing Solutions Board. You know, what's going to happen with the Battle Creek shelter, what's going to happen with the city's funding doesn't happen 2 or 3 years from now. How are we going to make the neighborhoods be the best kind of housing resource that they can be for homeless folks? And then we have to develop the strategy for the 2025-2029 consolidated plan and continue to explore these public service grants. So that's community development.
Well, Helen, I want to first of all welcome you back to the city of Battle Creek, and your wealth of knowledge on all these programs is very impressive. And what we're going to do is start down here with Commissioner Ballard. If he has a question, we're going to have him start and then move right across to the entire commission. So once again, thank you for all of your expertise that you bring to the plate, and I hope you're here for a long time.
Thank you. Well, Chris Lucier and Marcia Gillette called me, and I'm like, oh, yeah, yes. I did not want somebody from Port Huron or somebody else to take this job. I wanted it to be someone that loved Battle Creek, and I had a great job. I didn't leave because I wasn't happy. I was very happy with the county.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Ellen, welcome back. And it was really an exciting presentation that you did, one of the best that I've seen. And I would just like to welcome you and look forward to talking to you one-on-one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. First of all, Ms. Helen, can I just say that I appreciate your transparency throughout your presentation. Everything that you had concerns about, I could tell that you had concerns about them, but you were looking for solutions to figure out those issues. And I did have another comment regarding, I'm very glad to see that the city is taking interest in building up the communities that have homes that have been torn down, specifically Washington Heights. There has been a great deal of homes that have been torn down in our neighborhood, so I'm really glad to see the city investing in that. And I did have one question regarding the youth village. So with the funds that we have awarded to them, if they can't complete their project in the time that our deadline is to spend that money, what will happen to those dollars?
We're going to de-obligate it, and the timeline for the home ARPA dollars are tighter than our timeline, so I was going to follow the home ARPA dollars. If the home ARPA dollars get de-obligated and reallocated, that's what we're going to do. We're going to reallocate to another project. It's high impact, scored really high in the Alavance priority ranking. It scored really high, but if we're going to give them some time, but if they can't clear up and get it instruction, I would say a year and a half. I have to ask Ted and Laura what we're going to do. But we would de-obligate, and we would use that in other high need areas. And I think I neglected. There's about $470,000 of infill housing in the home program, and that's the money I think that we're going to use for infill housing. We're going to have to run a competition, but I would think that Washington Heights and the Land Bank would be very competitive for those dollars. So that's coming up probably this spring or summer, to do infill housing with the 470 of home dollars. And they're not new dollars, they're dollars we've had, we just haven't run the competition and done it. So I think it's exciting what Washington Heights United Methodist Church is leading there.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation, Helen. I'm very excited at what's going on downtown with the developments that we're looking into, and I thank you for the time that we spent going over what was happening, because it did happen very quickly, how we moved, and I'm so glad that there's passionate people in this town that want to help develop our downtown and our community to something that becomes a gem of the Southwest Michigan area. So.
We believe in Battle Creek.
I did see on one of the social media sites, one of the employees there, Chris Douglas, someone wrote a really nice thing saying that how helpful he was in getting the plans together for them to, I don't know what the problem was, but they just really thanked him a lot. So we got good people there ready to give answers and give up the time to help where it's needed. So thank you again.
There's been some delay in processing some applications for the minor home repair program, but the repairs that are made sometimes with the minor home repair program are life-changing for folks.
Helen, could you just update the commission on your establishment of a rapport with HUD and to continue what Chris Lucier was doing? It seemed as though HUD really thought a lot of Battle Creek.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've been a high performer, and we're like with the CHIP program, we've been a really high performer, but the HUD-led program, it's just not been our highest priority. I think there's been too many rules for us to actually, so it's taken us a while to get it going, and I'm like, high-risk designation, let's just ask for another year to do these 85 homes, and so we've got another year to get us along that path. So it's actually a year and a half, because the grant was supposed to be over on July 24th. So, and that's a different part than HUD Community Planning and Development. So Deborah Hegren is going to be here to do our monitoring, and she's terrific. I think we have a good rapport. It's just, through coronavirus, people stayed home, stayed safe. We canceled things. We only did the highest priority things. So we have some unspent dollars. But HUD trusts us. We've been transparent about the minor home or the rental rehab project. We're like, this is a dud, and we're trying to work it through. So we have a good relationship. Chris knew the rules a little bit better than I do right now, but 6 months from now, I've already made a huge growth in the last 4 months. I was really an expert in the home program because I was the community development specialist for the home program. So I know those ones better. Community development, Chris did when I was here before, so I'm learning the rules, but I'm a pretty quick study, and I'm really hopeful that we might end up having to repay back some of the funds for the rental rehab, which mistakes were made, maybe, it was undercapitalized. The developer didn't follow through. They have, we did write a letter that we could declare breach of contract anytime. We gave them notification because they haven't delivered in the 3.5 years they've gotten funding. So, but we might end up paying some dollars back from there. I'm hoping not to, but I think that it's been a very positive relationship with HUD.
Thank you very much. Commissioner?
Thank you, Mayor. Helen, welcome again to the city. I appreciate you and the county. We worked together at the county, and now you're at the city. I enjoy your enthusiasm, your love for our community. Thank you. This presentation was awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carla.
I look forward to working with you again.
Thank you.
Ellen, glad to have you with the city. We've had a chance to interact in your role on the Battle Creek Housing Commission, and we've had some good conversations about housing, so I'm glad to have you in this role. I want to talk, well, first of all, let me ask my question. You talked about public service grants, possibly bringing those back. I think you mentioned the Share Center and Haven. Could you give us some examples outside of those two organizations that we could potentially use those funds for?
Anything that helps low and moderate income folks could be used. So it could be the Share, or it could be Safe Place. We've done renovation of there. We did a lead, we took all the lead out of Safe Place. So that was during our lead remediation about 3 years ago. We could fund transportation, we could fund childcare, as long as it's low and moderate income folks. Okay. And the funding, I'm hoping that 2 or 3 commissioners would be on that advisory committee so that we could decide, is it 25,000 per, or is it 30,000? How are we going to spread 180,000? So it would be, and are they 2-year grants, 1-year grants? There's a lot of decisions that would have to be made, and I would hope that you would help be part of a committee that would develop those funding priorities.
Thank you for engaging us on that. So was there an opportunity to think outside the box and expending some of these funds? Because sometimes we throw a lot of money at things that we've been doing that don't necessarily always work, and if we can come up with something or look at other communities that are doing things outside the box, and I know you're looking at that. Yeah. One of the areas that I hope we can focus on, I know we've talked about this before, I think we have a big gap in our community, are individuals who have credit problems. Many times these folks go to, maybe there are openings at apartments or rental houses, but they're not able to get approved for that because of poor credit. Maybe something happened in their past. Maybe now they have a steady job, steady income, and are able to do that, but that past problem is still causing them issues now. Also with someone who may have had an eviction in the past. Felons, a lot of rental properties will not rent to somebody who has a felony. So I'm hoping, or maybe you can talk to what you're aware of, what we're doing for these second chance kind of folks, and then maybe what could we do more? That's a huge problem.
You have nailed the head on why we have folks living in our hotels long-term.
Yes.
It's because they just have such a checkered past that landlords can't take a risk on them. And we have a lot of unscrupulous landlords that rent homes that are in not real good condition. So it's the permanent supportive housing, I think, is start of an answer, especially for chronically long-term homeless folks. And I've been on the Housing Commission's board. When I went to the county, I wanted to stay involved in the housing in Battle Creek, so I applied to the city and became a member of the Battle Creek Housing Commission. So I've been president of the board, I think, for 4 years, and I've been on the board for 6. I think I started in 2008. But they have never project-based vouchers. And that's a big change with the upholdings and with the other developments that the Housing Commission has been willing to project-based vouchers. It's a game changer for Battle Creek that the Housing Commission, they have 320 public housing units. They just converted Cherry Hill to the multifamily portfolio and the rental assistance demonstration. But upholdings, the operating costs would be paid for by Section 8 housing choice vouchers that would be project-based there. So getting the Housing Commission to develop more types of housing to maybe lower the standards and take some of those people that pay their rent, but they're just, second chance housing is a real issue. And how do we get our current resources to change to, the Housing Commission has 640 vouchers the housing choice vouchers out there in the community. But it's very interesting that you get a voucher, there's only a 10% chance you're going to lease up, because you owe money to the Housing Commission, because you owe money to landlords, because you don't know how to do a housing search, because you haven't managed. So it's just interesting that you think, oh, housing choice voucher, an easy answer to a housing problem. It's not, because then people can't find a landlord willing to rent to them, so they turn the voucher back. And I think it's a real crisis we need to pay more attention to, you know, and maybe the CDBG Public Service dollars could work with the Financial Opportunities Commission that Goodwill runs, and we could require financial counseling, or we could do something to help intervene in that cycle that it's just hard for people to house, and those people have kids, and those kids are growing up in hotels, and every time a family moves, it hurts a kid's learning opportunities and their chances to make it in life. So I am with you 100%. It is a problem.
Great answer. Yep.
Thank you as always, Helen. Outstanding work. Once again, as always, you're an elite public servant, no doubt about it. A couple of things I just want to touch on, a comment and a question. First, that newspaper clipping you held up for a moment, when you held that up, I thought for sure Helen spent some time in the archives at Willard, you know, dusting off some old news clippings, and I was shook to my core to find out that was 2005, which I swear was like 4
Chris
years ago.
Lucier had amazing things.
Right?
I've got housing studies from 1937. I have gone through a lot of files in the last 4 months.
But secondly, regarding the Permanent Supportive Housing's Upholdings Project allocation, 28K, can you elaborate on that line a little bit? When commissioners considered this issue several months ago, it was just for the abatement, the 15-year pilot or what have you.
Yeah.
There wasn't any mention of these costs, and I assume these are DHHS dollars or Housing Commission dollars. Can you elaborate on that?
No, those are our federal dollars. We made a commitment in a competitive grant program for the Home ARP dollars Home ARP dollars had to address homelessness, and Upholding scored very high, and we actually committed $365,000, but we only have $332,000 of the Home ARP dollars, and so it's an eligible use of home dollars, so I thought that we would make them whole with home dollars, so that's a little bit of home dollars, and it's for the gap financing, because any low-income housing development, you know, Upholdings is only going to happen if MSHDA decides to award low-income housing tax credits. And so to build 55 units of one-bedroom apartments costs $15 million. It's a crazy amount of money. But we've got to build housing to change our housing. We're short housing. We don't have enough rental housing for folks to live in. And we don't have any, you know, there's poor people, and then there's unhoused poor people. And unhoused poor people came from foster care, have mental illness, have substance abuse problems. Their families, if you're homeless, like my nephew, I pay his rent a couple of times a year. I haven't done it in 2 years, but my nephew and his wife and child would be homeless without his Aunt Helen helping him occasionally. And the difference between housed poor and unhoused poor is that unhoused poor, they don't have the aunts, the uncles, the grandmas. They don't have people with assets to help them. They house search as much as they can, and then they've abused, you know, maybe because they're unpleasant, or maybe they're substance abusing, or maybe they just have too many kids, or there's the family around them is so poor they can't help them. So homelessness, just a whole story of supportive housing. Supportive housing has a case manager that knows you. And so when you're in a funk, they'll say, come on, Henry, you gotta like go to the hospital. Come on, Henry, let's do your bills. You know, the kinds of things that you do with your mom or your grandma or your brothers who are kind of disturbed, the stuff that we care for each other, homeless folks don't have that connection. So we have to rebuild that social network, and that's what supportive housing does. So, sorry.
Oh, for sure, yeah,
I
no,
got
of course.
a little
And
passionate
I agree,
there.
I understand, and it's an efficient
But
use
it's
of
the
dollars.
gap. Why we would commit home dollars is to fund the gap so that it would help. They've applied to the Federal Home Loan Bank. They're applying for different sources to fund, because there's always a development gap when you look at the funding with the loans, the the pilot reduces the operating costs, the Housing Commission choice vouchers pays for the operating costs. Summit Point's going to come forward with Medicaid dollars to pay for those case managers, so those dollars would pay for the construction gap.
Okay, so these are dollars that are going to the development company, not renters.
Correct.
And I'd follow up to that then. So this was a relatively modest allocation, about 30K. Is this something we can expect to do each year for upholdings?
No,
Okay.
I would hope to do it with the Housing Commission for the next round. My hope is we get upholdings going with, and then we develop a family unit somewhere else. It's successful, it's nice looking, it raises the property values. It's not a constant source of police calls.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It's a positive thing, and then we get some communities that have said, I don't want those people in my neighborhood. They say, oh, that housing's not so bad. Maybe we could have that in another area to get developed. So my hope, Jake, is that we use home dollars to then help a family development. So
Right,
that,
right.
like, my goal for the Housing Commission is that every other year they're developing housing. It's been a long road to hoe, but we're almost there. And we need to start developing housing. And so, and to help homelessness, we have to have choices for permanent supportive housing.
Sure, and I'm not hesitant, I'm not concerned, but I'm hesitant
good
with that
question.
type of, because, you like to see it go to people. But I understand where this is, and I just want to keep an eye on, so moving forward, we're not continually
Right,
feeding a
Upholdings
developer.
is a for-profit developer, but their heart's in the right spot. They're in this space to create housing, so we've attracted a high capacity with their hearts in the right spot. I feel like they're committed to a high-quality product. The homeless providers were upset about that location, but other locations of people have said, no, we don't want that here, we don't want it here, we don't want it there. And that's a location where the Neighborhood Planning Council said, any development is good development, come build. Come build. And so it was a different answer, and the Homeless Coalition felt like they weren't notified, we're dumping homelessness in that area, so it's been a little controversial.
Well, thank you once again, I appreciate it.
Long
We'll
answer,
monitor
sorry.
it moving forward and everything, but outstanding work as always. Thank you, Alan.
Thanks, Jake.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Let me add my welcome.
Thank you.
It is good to see you again in this capacity. I appreciate all of the partnerships and the relationships that you talked about tonight. It wasn't the city is doing this. We are doing this in coordination, in partnership with. And I think that just makes us that much better if we can partner with others. I also appreciate the fact that you don't hesitate to take on those people who have maybe taken money from the city and are not fulfilling their obligations. And so, well, okay, if that's going to be the case, then we might look at foreclosing on your property, because I think that for far too long, people have learned how to game the system, and they have done just that. And so I appreciate your willingness to say, that's not going to happen on my watch. So I appreciate that. With regard to the youth village, can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
That you contact Representative Hodsma's office to help maybe get Eagle to shorten that 6-month time frame. Obviously he can't guarantee, but working with the state representative's office.
It's often very effective. That's a great idea.
So I would suggest doing that. And then I would like to have a conversation with you at some point about the advisory committee that you talked about. So back in the day, I was on the CDAC board, and I think that I have maybe some observations or some input that might be of value. So I would appreciate a conversation with you at some point about that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that being said, we're going to adjourn our workshop. Thank you.
Thank you.